Hello everyone, this is Chase Pounds. Back to my part two of the Blue Lagoon movies. Now, as I left off, the they will often show when a ship will arrive. They will always try to signal for a ship to the ship will come. They'll always try to go up to the mountaintop, the reef top, and try to signal a ship. While as I said before, would have made better sense just to go out and just roll the boat to the ship so they could easily more likely spot them and they would be picked up. But this was never the case. And that's one thing I always comment about the logic of the film. And there was others towards the end of the movie. One thing I also kind of talked that to the movie, and I guess kind of thought in my head as well that at the end they grow. I guess the guess it Emma will grow tired. Will grow tired of I guess over time she grew tired. Emma grew tired about leaving the island and getting rescued. Help, help, and they just he he tells Michael to build a boat. Instructs Michael to build a boat and a sturdy boat. They be rescued. I should say they make plans to go on the boat to get rescued. They go build a boat to be rescued. Build a boat to be rescued and they pack enough food. I think enough food for them and their baby, and they just row out to sea, hoping that they'll be rescued. But as they keep rowing, they gradually grows tired and weak and tired. Yet she's not helping to row the boat, to help assist row the boat, do her part rowing the boat. She just, although she is, I think, taking care of the child, but still, I think she should have did a part, probably taking shifts maybe. One would row out to sea, and another would row, uh, one would do a little rowing, do a shift and rowing, and then take a break. One would take a break, the other one would do the rowing. That's how I think they should have done it, work together. But that didn't seem like Michael was doing more of the work. Working is they grow close to being rescued. He grows tired and weak, and finally, I guess how it ends, they both die. They die, but they die and die at the very end. Yet the child is still spared, and is spared. Spared is the only one living is spared. Now and that's how pretty much the movie ends. It was for most parts a nice movie. nice movie, nicely done Technicolor. And next movie, then the next movie would be next Blue Lagoon movie was in 1980. With this the in 1980, this is the one that most people are familiar with. It stars Brooke Shields and Christopher Atkins. Christopher Atkins and Christopher Atkins and Atkins. In this version, the main characters or were Dick. No, it was Richard and Emmeline in this version, and it's set in the late turn of the century. I think sometime during the late turn of the century, the late Victorian era, and Victorian era in this Victorian era, and they're on their way to home to San Francisco, and San Francisco, of course, but unexpectedly the ship catches on fire, and there's a mad rush of passengers, and the panic, mad dash to the lifeboats, and there's a big rush of panic, and they get separated from their I think father or guardian, and they end up getting into a lifeboat only occupying them and this cook name is Patty, and they get separated from the other lifeboats in the fog, and they end up left adrift in the ocean, the three of them, until they finally spot an uninhabited South Seas island, remote island, and they again like the other films, the book version, they both spend the rest of their lives on the island. After Patty dies of alcohol consumption, they're left to defend for themselves and to is navigate the growing pains of adolescenthood, even though not being really being educated of life experience of about the facts of life or any other such things, or just any other common necessities that of life that are often taught to kids, or they're unfortunately not given much knowledge other than trying to learn from themselves, to film themselves, know what they already know, and most of it they're most of it they're no mostly they're only knowledge is what they knew as kids, and from that point on. So they eventually grow to have a bit over time. They grow to as they grow into adolescence, they grow to have a child, and they grow to have a child, and unfortunately they as the towards the end, they unfortunately it's the Eve Eve element that well, I should say I should start from this start at the begin start from my I guess of or of my experiences with, like, not experience, my now to the I guess my opinions and critiques about the movie. The the one is that if the one is it has when I was 10 years old, I had watched this movie. I watched this movie when I was 10 years old, and with my mother. It appeared on AMC channel. They're showing it was like a monthly thing of like a summer thing where they were showing all classic films of the '80s. One was starting off as Blue Lagoon, and I watched this with my mother. And the memorable thing about this movie is that is as of course it's the shipwreck element of it. There's a seafaring shipwreck movie, and a period one as well that's set during the late Victorian period, and and that's the one thing that stands out. And it was the only first movie it was the first time from watching this movie that I learned about women go through their thing known as their period. And because the scene where she's in a in the waterfall thing bathing, I guess, and her hands bleed, and she she gets very discouraged, and she tells Richard to go away and splashes water on him. And that's what I know first heard of women go through their period was from this movie right here. Here. And the other part that always is this scene right here. Even from when I was 10 years old, this was a scene that I always thought to myself, and I wrestle it now. Why did he go through all this trouble building a boat? And a boat, and he sees it sinks. He sinks. That's like I read in the other film about how when the ship comes, they don't row the boat out to sea. In this one, why did they in this why do they why don't they just use the boat they came in from the lifeboat they came in to just row to get off the island? That's what something I would have done a long time ago. Was and why would they just I can understand if the boat had a leak in it or was damaged, but if the but that wasn't the case because they're using this boat to go fishing, and they could just use that boat to boat boat to get to be rescued in to go out to sea to be rescued. Maybe I would have done that if I a long time ago. If I was that desperate to get up the island, I would just take the boat out and just row it to the roll it out to sea and hope the ship would come openly. And which they kind of do later. The end though is by accident. They it's only because I think they were think Emmeline was fishing and with the and they had the bait child with them and the I think something happens to the oars. I think the baby throws the oar maybe and they get swept out to the ocean by the current and Richard has to catch her after and they're too far away from the island to go back and they're further out to sea, so they just left it drifting in the boat and and that's how it kind of ends. And then there's the Elma and the Berries, as they call in the movie, wake up, wake up, berries. As they call wake up berries, and as they were taught by Penny not to eat those berries because they were poisonous, and you will not wake up, I guess, die from them. And just like in this, the Adam and Eve element similar to where God instructed Adam and Eve not to eat from the forbidden fruit, the tree of knowledge. It's parallel to this story, and that was in the book. That's where he based it off of, was the story of Adam and Eve. And they do so, and they accept the consequences, even though in the movie version, it turns out the baby didn't really eat the berries, but they didn't know, really had much knowledge of it, so they just assumed that the baby ate the berries, so they end up eating the berries, and both the two of them eat the berries, and they die just as the ship is ready to pick them up. And that's how it pretty much ends. I recently, as I said before, watched this back in May. And it was it's funny how I remember things. I guess a certain way compared to when I was 10 years old. They say that if you watch a movie, if you remember things a long period of time, but then you see things again, it's different from what you remember. And I guess this was the case with this movie. Some events I remember. And I have to say about Brooke Shields, she's very gorgeous for a time and very attractive. Of course, I didn't focus on that as a kid because I was more interested in the shipwreck element of it. So that's what really stood out. But looking at it now, she's very attractive. And I guess when you see, I guess it depends on my age and maturing. I guess I'm more interested in noticing women that are more attractive. So I guess it has something to do with that. Just like I remember from Lily from the Magic Railroad. Lily from the Magic Railroad. Even though I was more interested in Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Just back while I was saying Lily from the Thomas and the Magic Railroad. how I was mostly just interested in the chase scene at the end was most of the thing I remember is that stood out. But now looking at this I guess Ronald Doe, I noticed how attractive Moore Wilson was as a kid. Yeah, but anyway, that's how that's the blue. That's how the Blue Lagoon ends, and then it won't be about I guess 10 to 11 years later. I guess around the anniversary, maybe around with the celebrating the anniversary of when the original Blue Lagoon came out. They came with its first sequel, Return. Return to the Blue Lagoon, which picks off where which picks off where which picks off where the original ends where picks off where the original ends and I saw that when the week after I saw the original back the next Sunday after I watched the original Blue Lagoon, and and as I said, it picks up where a ship spots the ship picks up the original castaways on the island, and the child is living. When I originally thought from watching this was when they it was two. They had two children. I thought they had two children, but really it was one child. But that's how I remember things differently.
It was the first motion picture to explore the innocence of natural love in a paradise filled with wonder. Now, the story continues for a new generation. Columbia Pictures.
I was trying to find the full.
To return to the Blue Lagoon. Two castaways.
I was trying to find the full movie, and I was trying to show where the cast where it says, and it picks off where it mentions that it's set in 1897. Now I interpret this two ways. Is that the first is that it's set in that it picks off at 1897 when the original castaways were grown adults, and when they were picked up by the ship, but picked up by the ship, but as layers the timeline, as I noticed the timeline of later when second sequel when they were grown, it seemed like it doesn't really fit the period it's set in. It seemed like it's more well into the 20th century. It's not really during the Victorian era. it says. It says 15, it has here 15 years before our story begins. Two children were shipwrecked on Char Island. The little boy and the little girl grew up alone in this lost paradise. Paradise as man and woman. They discovered a pure and natural love. And in time, a child was born. But in the track, as they were driven out to sea from their island, drifting out for days, they believed that they were lives, and the life of their baby were at an end, and passing vessel drew near. I thought it had the year of when it. Yep, it has here 1897. So I'm interpreting, well, again, like I interpreted it this way, that so 15 years would have been in 18. And that it's kind of confusing now, a little confusing, that it starts off in 1887. But then it I guess it's 15 years later, and it must have been 1885 when it starts off, but then as they eventually grown over the years, it's probably 1897 when they get picked up. But then I interpret it this way, where it happened in 1897, as it has here, the South Pacific, 1897, but there's 1897, but then the years go by, and it's 15 years later in 19, about 19. So I kind of did the math in my head, and then it would have been, after 15 years after 1897, it would have been about 1912, which that's when they would have been picked up by the ship, and the ship, that's how I did the timeline. They picked up the ship by 1912. Then it starts. Then when they're shipwrecked again, and they shipwrecked again and live on in this movie, after the people or the characters are back on the island again. I'm sorry for being too confusing about this, but after 1912 is maybe about 10 years later, that is in 1922, that these set of kids are grown in 1922, and that's when people, I know I'm kind of giving the head of the details, but that's when it's 10 years later, it's 1922, and I think, I'll get to why I think that is, but in this version, the ship that rescues the child has a lady on board, and her child, a young girl, and she offers to take care of the child even since the original parents are dead. But unfortunately, as fate would know it, as fate would have it, I think like a disease is epidemic spreads on board the ship, and I think it's cholera. And it's so bad that they had to people that aren't affected, which is the lady and the child, and I think a crew member, are forced to have to abandon ship until a lifeboat left to drift out to sea. It drift out to sea, and